You're listening to the Plain Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carlos Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 261 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me as always in the PTUK Studio this week is my co-host Matt Smith.
Well, hello everyone. How are we all? It's daytime.
It's daytime. It's weird. There's light going through the curtains.
I don't like it when it's daytime.
But it's even more strange because today we're actually experiencing sun.
Yes. That's what it is it? That I thought there was some kind of massive fireball occurring. Yeah. It's not something we see very often, it has to be said.
It's nice. It's nice. But how are you, Matt?
Yes, I am, as I quite often say, living life's eternal dream.
Good.
Every day.
Been anywhere nice this week in the big coach? I'll take that as a no.
I can't.
Say it to France. No.
Well, I think I went somewhere slightly exotic. I can't remember. Oh, Norwich.
That's you went to Norwich.
For
that's far from here.
Yeah, it is.
It's all of 20 minutes away.
Absolutely. But exciting news on Tuesday. I'm off to King's Lynn.
Wow.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Wow. You're going off the grid.
Well, that's up the wash, isn't it? That's where the web feet are and stuff, isn't it? It's dangerous territory.
I know.
Yeah.
So we have got someone joining us in the studio this week, and
yes.
You may recognise him because he's another co-host of the show. Welcome into East Anglia, Neville Bounds.
Good afternoon. Great to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me into your very spacious studio. Basically, we have to, when we come into studio, we have to work out who's going to go in first, because once you're in, there's no real changing of mind about it.
No, of course, Armando, you can vouch for this, of course, having been here several times. It's all very straightforward for you.
I can give it a couple hours and it'll get nice and toasty in there.
Lovely. Yes, no, we're leaving that as a nice surprise for him. Don't spoil it.
So how are you, Nev?
Fine. It's been a bit of a difficult week, as some of you may know. We lost our poor cat Tom last Sunday. Very tragic circumstances as well, but we're okay. We're doing all right. Sue and I are doing fine now, and it's going to take a while to get over it, obviously. But
I don't think it's something you ever get over, does it? Really?
The cats are important to us all, aren't they?
Yes,
exactly.
They're family, aren't they?
Yes.
So, yeah.
But the banana made it here.
It did, yes. I had to obviously lean out the fuel a bit because it's a long distance, to make it in one hit.
I don't know if we'd have your particular brand of petroleum.
Red diesel,
yeah.
you mean?
Red diesel.
You tractor boys up here.
Hey, that's Ipswich. That's nowhere near us. Be careful. Canaries round here, thank you.
And then tomorrow I'm off to Dis, which is, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, half an hour away. Yeah, it's not far from here.
So, yeah. And then back home tomorrow night. So, yeah, great to be in the studio and great to have you guys with me for a nice change rather than me being on the end of a line somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're all feeling well after our Christmas pudding dessert earlier.
It's great. Very weird. Carlos fed us Christmas pudding. I just had to remind him it is actually March. But anyway, there we are. Never mind. It is what it is.
Joining us as well, he's back stateside, back with his family, and we're so glad that he's finally enjoying the home life. It is, as always, our awesome co-host on the show, Armando.
Hey, everybody. Yes, it is indeed very, very nice to be back in the U.S. I feel like I've already lost my British accent.
Oh, dearie me. I didn't know you had one. Sorry. Yeah.
Didn't you hear him earlier when he was here?
After about 8 beverages, every American has a British accent.
Right.
It's all apples and pears.
Yeah.
So how are things, Armando? I'll take it you've settled in after your flight back last week.
Yeah, it was really nice. We had bought this house here on Lake Norman, and so we've just been sort of in moving mode, as you can sort of see all the boxes and everything in the back. But I did get a chance to already go out and check out the local airports. So I've already been out looking at the general aviation community and some of the business community in the area. Business aviation community, which this is NASCAR country, so it's there's a lot of race teams that have some really, really nice airplanes here. I got a chance to check out some of those, a lot of Embraers, a lot of ERJs out here, so I was surprised.
Excellent. And I'm guessing that you're obviously back to enjoying sunny weather your side as well now that you're back home.
Yeah, it is sunny. I'm wearing shorts and t-shirt. It's 60 degrees out there, and I actually had to close the blinds because the sun was coming into the room and getting the computer a little hot.
Did you say 60 or 16? What did you say? Sorry.
60
So
Fahrenheit.
What's that in real money?
Oh, that's about 20, right?
Okay, that's fine. That's good.
That's still warmer than it is here.
Well, yeah, that's hard. I think it's 11 degrees in the car.
So I think first question then, before we crack on, Armando, is how was your flight back to the US?
So, thanks to a certain Captain Al, I don't know if they actually listened or not, but when I showed up to the airport to check in, first of all, very important, I met up with Jonathan Warner,
yes,
who was there working in the London area, and he braved a little trip over to Heathrow Terminal 3, and we met up for a really, really nice breakfast and got a chance to spend probably an hour and a half together. But when I checked into American Airlines, they did put me on the standby list for first class.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, it was completely full.
Oh.
So the alternative was they gave me access to the first class lounge, but then I was in 38G. So, but really, shout out to American Airlines, because they did give it the good old college try. That would have been a nice trip. But I appreciate the effort.
But you flew back on a 330, didn't you, Armando?
It was an A330. Thank you, Carlos, for tracking me all the way, make sure I was safe. All the way across the ocean and letting me know when I landed.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry,
he does that. Yes.
Just a geek in me.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure
you
got
for
back.
providing updates to Megan as I was.
Right. I know. It's a service we provide here at PTUK for all our hosts.
Wow. Do we charge for that service? Is it reasonably?
It's yeah. Right. And I'm just hoping that Nev has his ADSB out on the banana on the way back to Buckinghamshire.
Oh yes, I shall have that.
Have your GPS turned on? Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we're going to say a big welcome then to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room this afternoon. All the usual family members in there. Too many to mention because they're all just so blinking awesome. So welcome to everyone who's joined us.
Some new faces as well, actually,
and some new
nice.
faces. Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We've got James Taylor who's joined us in the chat room, and apparently James is in a location not far from our awesome Owen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, this is what I love about this. The chat room, they're busy making arrangements to sort of meet up at some point. So that's really quite cool. Love it. Actually, the backdrop, those of you watching on YouTube, the backdrop that's behind us today has been very kindly sent to us by Jonathan Warner, and it's obviously you'll all know it's a Harrier, obviously. In fact, is that a red arrow that is behind the? Is it, or is it just happens to be?
That looks like a
PC29.
Right,
it's
okay.
a PC29.
So I just see a red plane and I immediately jump to the only red thing that I know. But there we are. Yeah,
this looks good. It's a nice
it
backdrop.
is,
Thanks
so
for
thank
that,
you,
Jonathan.
thank you for that, Jonathan Warner.
So
actually, while we're talking about aircrafts and stuff, you stumbled across a new helicopter, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah,
earlier on today, whilst I was finalising the show notes for today's show, I stumbled across a certain video on I think it was Boeing's one of Boeing's site. And just take a look, for those of you watching in the YouTube chat room world, take a look at this helicopter because it is different.
It's definitely very, very different. So it's an SB-1 Defiant, the way forward. Look at this. This is a bizarre machine. So for those of you watching or listening to the thing, so it's as I say, it's an SB-1 Defiant. It's made by, it's something to do with Boeing, isn't it? But it's got two rotor blades, counter-rotating rotor blades on the top. And there's, I presume, the prop at the back is, I presume, to give it its forward motion. But they reckon, Armando, correct me if I'm wrong, but they reckon this could possibly be one of the fastest military helicopters in existence. They reckon, but this is its maiden flight. That's more why we're covering it. But what a fascinating bit of kit. What do you reckon to that,
crazy
Armando?
Is that?
Yeah, this is it's a cool airplane that I've been watching the development of this helicopter for a little while, and it's supposed to be one of the fastest helicopters out there with an incredible payload. Kind of a replacement for the UH-60 or the H-60.
Yeah.
But it looks very cool. It did completely remind me of one of those 1920s, sort of counter-rotating, we're going to attempt flight type videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I should have made, because actually you did reply to that email, didn't you? With said link, I should have maybe downloaded that as well.
Actually, our main man Micah in the chat room has said that it also slices and dices and makes julienne fries.
Excellent, good news. Well, I mean, I'm amazed, frankly, that we've gone 10 minutes in without mentioning food. So I mean, you know, pretty good going.
That's
really.
the only mention of food we're going to make today.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So
we have much love also for. We're big fans of. I am especially of the BOAC livery that's been going on. And actually, we've been sent this video by the lovely Dan Hannington.
Dan Hannington.
If you haven't seen, he was outside with his telephoto video lens, and you can just see in the background there. There we go. Look. There it is in the sky. I'm not sure. I presume this is near where he's home. Where is he based? He's not really miles away. Guildford, isn't he? I seem to remember down that sort of way. And there it is.
That looks so cool, doesn't it, Nev?
It does. The old
retro.
BOC. How cool is that? What a lovely video. Thanks for sending that in.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
For us. That is just so cool. There's something about... It's nice to see them on the tarmac, but actually to have them in the air like that. Brilliant. And a beautiful day as well.
With the birds and everything.
Absolutely beautiful day. Anyway, you can carry on now. Sorry.
Yeah, if you look up Dan Hannington on Instagram, Dan Hannington, he does Dan Hannington Aviation Photography.
Yeah.
On Instagram, he's got some pretty awesome pictures on there on his Instagram page.
Yes,
if you go onto Instagram, put at @DH_aviation_photography, and you'll see all the awesome pictures that Dan's got on there of aircraft. So there we go. So we've got loads to get through on the show this week. We've got all the latest news stories coming to you. We've also got a segment which has been sent in by Pilot Pip, and I think Pip's in the chat room as well this week.
Yep.
That's coming up later. We've got all the greatest military news, which has been compiled by Armando for this week as well. So, well, guys, I suppose we better push on.
Yes, indeed, yes.
So we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of all the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
Yes, I am.
And if you're ready, Nev.
As I'm here, yes.
Armando.
Ready to go? Let's do it.
David, is it Etchells? David Etchells. He's put in the chat room there. Is this live?
Is it live? I hope it's
live.
live.
Is it live? I don't know.
If I poke Nev, oh yeah, it's definitely live.
Well, they're just looking at a screen at the moment, so that was totally wasted. But anyway, thanks for playing.
Okay, well done. Yes, we are live. We are 100% live. It is 13 minutes past 5 on Sunday evening here in the UK.
Yeah,
and our first news story this week is on the independent.co.uk website. And do you know what? How many more weeks are we going to run stories about airlines having issues, and failing? But this one headline is Jet Airways crisis. Airline cancels huge number of flights as bailout fails, while WOW Air calls off their rescue bid. So two popular airlines, popular with British travellers, are in difficulties. Jet Airways, a big Indian carrier, is cancelling flights and some entire routes, including the recently launched link between Manchester and Mumbai. Meanwhile, WOW Air of Iceland is announcing that talks over a potential rescue bid have been called off. The Indian carrier Jet Airways has seen 2/3 of its fleet grounded at the instance of aircraft leases. Last month, the Chief Financial Officer Amit Gawal told investors that relations with overdue creditors were good. We are working very well with our various stakeholders, be it vendors, leasers, partners, in terms of managing our win-win situation. He says, but it falls behind with payments. The owners of its aircraft are demanding that they stay on the ground, while some pilots and engineers have said that their wages have gone unpaid since this year. The link between Manchester and Jet Airways hub began in November last year, and at the time of the Aviation Minister, Baroness Suggs, said such connections are key to Britain's economic future. The 5-a-week flights have been abruptly grounded. The last departure of Jet Airways Flight 129 from Manchester to Mumbai touched down shortly after midnight on Saturday morning. Subsequent arrivals and departures are shown as cancelled. The airline said that due to operational reasons, the flight schedule has been impacted, and they realise that it's been affected to our guests as well as their travel plans, and truly regret the inconvenience. Jet Airways says its customer support teams are working round the clock to ensure that the guests are accommodated on alternative flights or provided a refund as well. The airline's Twitter feed is full of messages from anxious travellers. And Jet Airways responded to the messages on Instagram and Twitter that our contact centre, guest relations and social media teams are receiving high volumes of queries which may lead to extended wait response times for guests. We seek your understanding and support. The airline has told business travellers, Nev, that they can no longer have access to a lounge at Delhi Airport serving the Indian capital. WOW Air said that Indigo Partners, the US firm which was in talks about a potential rescue bid, have pulled out, and all negotiations between WOW Air and the Indigo Partners have been cancelled. The airline has now resumed talks with its bigger rival, Iceland Air, about a takeover, and the pair appeared to be on the brink of a deal back in November 2018. So Jet Airways, now this, I mean, I thought they were doing fairly well. They're one of the sort of second, I think they're second biggest carrier in India after Air India, but they're obviously having issues. Whether this is due to a lot of the aircraft they've got being grounded through various issues, because
are they a Max customer then? Is that what
I'm not sure whether they're a Max customer or
Okay.
not, actually, Jet Airways. But I thought they were doing quite well, actually, but obviously not with the
I
new.
don't know, but I mean, we cover stories like this quite regularly, don't we? There is in some sectors and in some countries there does seem to be a problem with the low cost model, if you see what I mean. If that makes sense, I don't know really what the solution is. I mean, Ryanair certainly do seem to be able to make it work, but it is. I mean, you don't get much more no frills than.
I mean, they're a relatively young airline. I mean, Jet Airways were formed or commenced operations in 1993, so they're not massively old airline. They've got 119 in the fleet of aircraft,
right,
with 52 destinations across the globe.
Okay.
But just looking at their latest profits from last year, and it was down by quite a
hammer.
amount.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's a shame.
You know, I think what this makes me think of is just as we continue to talk about the pilot shortage and emerging technologies in aviation, this is just another sign of how volatile this industry is. So all of us that are enthusiasts and in the industry, working in this industry, you sort of embrace the good times, but you always know that this industry could, take a turn at any moment, whether you're an employee of an individual airline like this or the entire industry takes a turn. So it's sort of cautious trepidation when the times are good and you take the most advantage of it that you can.
Yeah, they've got a mixed fleet: Airbus 330s, ATR 72s. They've got 737, 700s, 800s, and 900s. They have actually got 5 of the MAX 8s in the fleet. They've got some on order as well at the moment, and they've also got 10 777-300ERs in their fleet as well. So a bit of a mixed fleet. Nev.
We've got a lot of Maxes on order, a lot of Max 8s on order.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
Tony S is saying in the chat room, by the way, it must be live because Armando's already turned to the drink, which I think is fair comment.
Yeah. So moving on to the next story, and as always, it is the world famous Ryanair story,
Right.
and a bit of a punchy story.
Yes.
This one,
now we've actually opted to not show the video because it is actually quite detailed, shall we say, but if you want to, it's on the Express website, express.co.uk, which I recommend that nobody ever goes to for their aviation related news. And the headline is: Drunken punch-up as Ryanair flight from Prestwick lands in Tenerife. Women and kids screamed in terror as a bloody brawl broke out on a Scottish holiday flight to Tenerife. Violence flared as the Ryanair service from Prestwick touched down on Saturday morning. So a passenger who filmed the mayhem said it all started over a woman not wearing her shoes going to the toilet. A very drunken man pulled her up about it, saying that someone would stand on her toes. The woman's boyfriend stepped in and tried to defuse the situation. Once the plane landed and more alcohol was consumed, the man and the woman's boyfriend started arguing. Both Being very drunk, they started to fight. The passenger said a man tried to calm the situation down and got hit on the nose, adding that there was lots of blood. He went on, one of the cabin crew, a young woman aged about 24, that's very specific, isn't it? Aged around about 24, was caught in the middle of it all. She was very scared but did a good job. A family with a young boy witnessed it all. It was a very scary moment, as it was very confused. Passengers and crew who tried to break up the fight were spattered with blood. Police came on board, arrested 2 men and took statements. The plane was an hour late taking off for the return to Prestwick with the same crew still on duty. A returning passenger said that the chief steward's shirt was covered in blood and he was shaking like a leaf. He was trying to welcome us aboard and apologise at the same time, but he was so shaken up that he could hardly get his words out. He told us that there had been a lot of upset children and women screaming. Ryanair said unruly behaviour on its flight would not be tolerated. It confirmed the crew requested police assistance on arrival and said the incident was now a matter for local police. Well, I mean,
I feel a ban and a big fine coming.
Yes, at least someone. I hope. I mean, there's not really a lot we can say about this story. It's just, but I'm sorry, there is absolutely no excuse to be rude and abusive towards cabin crew for whatever reason, regardless of your beef with a certain individual. And this is the thing. What they don't realise is these incidences are not going to help the argument for enjoying a beer on your flight, and. I know I say it time and time again, but it's the minority spoiling it for the majority yet again. You know, the rest of us can all do it in sensible moderation. The rest of us can do it without getting so totally... I mean, I'm a nervous flyer, and I have to admit that when I have been flying, I've had a couple of beers before I've got on the aeroplane. I do find that it has sort of settled the nerves a little bit. I'm a little bit more fluid and all that kind of thing. But I'm certainly not knocking back the shots as a way of trying to sort of... I just people stop it, please.
I just watched the video while you were talking there, Matt, and it's pretty. Honestly, it wasn't just a little slap. They were being quite brutal. With
More
each
importantly,
other.
though, what were the production values like?
Were they high quality? Were they? Yes.
It wasn't vertical video.
Yeah, it was vertical video.
Well, that's another good reason not to play it then, Nev, isn't it? Yes, absolutely.
I mean, we've talked about it before, Armando, but this isn't something that you see all the time in the US, do you? With your, you don't have, drunken brawls and fights breaking out on your aircraft over in the US.
Oh, I don't know. I think it probably happens. It just doesn't make the news quite as much as, I think Ryanair loves to be in the news, or the news loves to cover Ryanair. But I'm sure proportionally we probably have just the same amount of shenanigans.
Yeah. I guess, as I say, I think we do have like an oversensitivity for anything aviation related, especially the UK media these days, and anything to sort of diss an airline or to, come up with some, and I hate it because it's scaremongering, as I say, and as a nervous flyer, I don't need all this usually inaccurate information being fired at me.
Do you know what? It adds fuel to the fact that aircraft manufacturers need to install airlocks on their aircraft.
So you can eject them.
So
you can just eject a person.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an option.
Especially like this gentleman calling out somebody walking to the back with no shoes. Just let the cabin crew handle it. Mind your own business.
Yeah.
There's a safety concern, the cabin crew will take care of it. Otherwise, are you the Ryanair police? Probably not. So just kind of let it be.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next story, and Nev, this bit of a nosy story, this one.
Yes, and some good news for a change. Let's have a good news story, shall we? It's on the Israeli nationalnews.com. It says that British Airways unveils clown plane, and the UK airline teams up with Comic Relief, a medical aid group, giving passenger plane a clown nose for the Red Day fundraiser. And it's part of the company's partnership with a medical relief non-governmental organisation looking to raise awareness for for its fundraising campaign. British Airways repainted one of its Airbus A320 jets, including red paint on the nose cone, to give the appearance of a clown's red nose, to raise the profile of the ongoing fundraising campaign launched by the Comic Relief Aid Organisation. In addition to the clown plane, British Airways will be handing out red clown noses at airport terminals in exchange for donations. Comic Relief says it hopes that the partnership with BA will bring at least £25 million, that's $33 million, by its Red Nose Day event at the end of 2020. The money raised by BA for Comic Relief thus far has gone for a variety of medical treatments and preventative care, including vaccinations for children in sub-Saharan Africa, treatment to prevent the transmission of HIV to newborn children, and funding for healthcare and education for homeless children in India. So that is some very positive news there. That's a nice story, I think, isn't it?
Absolutely.
What do you think of the red nose on that 320 Nev? It's quite bright, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it's
bright.
exceeded its maximum speed, doesn't it? But yeah, they've done a nice job of that. Very good.
Can you imagine the whole aircraft painted that colour red?
That could be a step too far. Maybe.
Wow.
But no, it's good.
No,
Nice.
that's good.
Yeah, with the Israeli news covering it as well, it's the slight misunderstanding of what Red Nose Day is all about as well. I can't help but find slightly amusing. It's medical aid group. It's a little bit more than that, but
No, it's good.
yeah.
So next story, moving on, Armando. This one, well, it's another rather interesting paint job.
Yeah, this is from Derbyshire Live News online, or it's the derbytelegraph.co.uk. The Japanese airline has taken delivery of an aircraft dubbed the Flying Turtle that is powered by engines produced by Derby's own Rolls-Royce. At a handover ceremony this week, All Nippon Airways, or ANA, received the first of 3 Airbus A380 aircraft that it had ordered, all powered by Rolls-Royce Trent 900 engines. ANA intends to start using the aircraft from May 24th, operating services between Tokyo and Honolulu. To mark the link between with the Hawaiian capital, each aircraft will feature a special livery depicting the Hawaiian green sea turtle, also known as the Honu. At this week's delivery ceremony, which was held at Airbus's Toulouse headquarters in France, the first aircraft was handed over to ANA. That aircraft had a blue turtle livery, which if you put up the pictures, it is beautiful. I can't imagine how much paint went into that.
Yeah.
But the second will be green and the third will be orange. Wow. Let's see. It kind of goes on to talk a little bit about the current events with the A380 ending deliveries. And I just think it's a beautiful airplane. Can't wait.
So is this again? Apologies, forgive my ignorance here. Is this a paint job or is it a wraparound, as they call it, where it's had a sort of like a vinyl sort of put on it? I guess it must be a paint job.
Must be a paint, but I mean, to get the detail that they've got in that would have took some serious masking
skill,
some masking tape to get all the edges and stuff. It's amazing what they can do.
Was the High Fly one? Was that a paint job or was that a vinyl?
Looked like a paint job, I must say, when we saw it. It did look good. But beautifully done as well, just like this one too.
Yeah, I love it when they do stuff like this. It's so nice to see things different, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose when you're talking about paint and livery, the A380 is really good for that with those big...
plenty of room, yeah. Plenty of room for a decent paint job, yeah. Absolutely.
So the next story is on the simpleflying.com website. And the headline, could Qatar Airways be, or Qatar,
whatever, yes.
be by struggling Malaysia Airlines? So as the Malaysian government mulls the sale of the flag-carrying airline, speculation about which carrier Qatar are looking to invest in is growing. Malaysian Airlines seems an ideal acquisition for the Middle East carrier, but would it be allowed to do it? And are the Middle East carriers or Malaysian Airways even for sale? I didn't know they were for sale. The future of Malaysian Airlines hangs in the balance, with the airline making a massive loss last year. The government has been considering where it should go next. Should they throw more money at it or cut their losses and close it down entirely? Or, like so many others, should it be sold off to a rival airline? With a big fleet of aircraft and a foothold in one of the fastest growing aviation markets in the world, the prospect of a sale has clearly attracted attention. The Malaysian Prime Minister is quoted as saying that there are local and foreign firms expressing interests in the airline. Could one of these foreign firms be Qatar? The Malaysian government is currently considering the future of their flag-carrying airline, and Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad has said that he's considering whether to invest or sell or close the airline after another year of failing to turn a profit. The airline has troubled a few years over the past, with one aircraft vanishing, as we all know, over the Indian Ocean, and another one shot down over eastern Ukraine. Subsequently taken over by Khazanah Nasional, a sovereign wealth fund, the airline is suffering a loss and failing to show themselves as a sustainable business. They have had money injected into investments amounting to 6 billion RM. That must be their currency, whatever that is there, but that works out at $1.47 billion in 2014, with a view to making the airline profitable by 2017. However, last year they reported losses of $1.5 billion, demonstrating that their 5-year turnaround plan is failing. Malaysian Airlines Chief Revenue Officer in Guasong said the carrier had been working on its efficiencies and had made improvements despite what it says on paper. Speaking to the Malaysian Reserve, he said, with the future in jeopardy, could Qatar Airways step in with an acquisition offer for the carrier? That'd be kind if they did actually to save the carrier. But both Qatar and Malaysian Airlines are One World members. But as we know, Qatar have been making noises about leaving the alliance for quite some time. Should they indeed split, having an airline like Malaysian on the books would give them a firm footing in the rapidly growing Southeast Asian market. Already Qatar have holdings in IAG, Cathay Pacific and LATAM, giving them some standing in Europe, Asia and South America. With Malaysian Airlines' proximity and slots in the Antipodean region, it would be a huge benefit to the airline to get a piece of that action. Well, it wouldn't surprise me, if Qatar did snap them up.
It's obvious one, isn't it? Yeah.
Everyone sees Emirates as being the leader in the Middle East kind of region for airlines, and I think if Qatar did snap someone like Malaysian up, they'd be biting on the heels of Emirates.
They would. And some supplemental news there. The Malaysian currency is called the ringgit.
The ringgit.
Wow.
As in
wow.
Ring it? Give it a ring. Yeah,
give it a ring.
Absolutely. Yes. How does the currency compare to like ours? It's
I don't know.
Is
it's probably
is
one
it
of those
1 million
ringgits
to a pound or something silly?
Yeah. So the next story. Moving on, Matt.
I've got right. Yes, sorry.
It's a bit of a feel-good story, this one for you, Matt, because it concerned. I think I found this story this week online. I just thought this is pretty awesome because we've covered stories in the past on the show of families getting the chance to fly on the flight decks together on airlines.
Yeah.
But this one's nice, don't you think?
It is, yeah, absolutely. So this is... Sorry, I'm doing it on my phone, so I'm having a spot of trouble with this. It's the Telegraph website, and the headline is UK's youngest female pilot, 16...
16?
To be mentored by EasyJet captain as airline aims to attract more women. So the youngest female pilot is to be mentored by an EasyJet captain to help her choose between a life as a stunt or commercial flyer. Ooh, well, it's an unusual choice. We'll come back to Armando for comment on that in a moment. Ellie Carter made headlines in January when she flew a light aircraft alone just 3 days after her 16th birthday. As she continues to explore the field of aviation, she will now be mentored by a female captain at the airline as part of its efforts to attract more women to become professional pilots. Ellie from Great Torrington, Devon, said, "I've been interested in physics and powered flight from as young as I can remember. Flying absolutely amazes me and continues to surprise me, and so I can see how rewarding a career as a pilot could be. Becoming a U-2 Dragon Lady pilot, which is part of a secret aerial reconnaissance squad in the US Air Force, a stunt pilot, or a piloting instructor are all areas of interest Ellie will be exploring over the next year." This sounds like the ultimate work experience, doesn't it? It sounds so cool. I hope that my story will encourage young girls to accomplish accomplish whatever they set their mind to, because if I can do it, so can they, she said. I'm overwhelmed with the support I've had from the public and ecstatic that EasyJet have offered me this rare opportunity which will help me on my way to pursuing the career of my dreams. I really cannot wait to get started. So Zoe Ibri, who is EasyJet training captain and Ellie's mentor, said it's a fantastic to meet such a passionate young commercial pilot in the making. Ellie's drive, determination and achievements to date are impressive, and I look forward to helping her more on her amazing journey. Only around 5% of airline pilots across the world are women. EasyJet is aiming for 20% of its new trainee pilots to be women by 2020, up from 15% in 2017. A poll of 2,000 British parents and children commissioned by the Luton-based carrier indicated that more than a quarter of young girls would consider a career as a pilot. But the survey suggested that more than half, 51% of children, believe their career choices are restricted by gender stereotypes. The figure for their parents was 66%. EasyJet's Director of Flight Operations, Captain David Morgan, said, "We want our people to reflect the diversity of the customers we fly and the communities in which we operate, and so encouraging more girls and women to take on this hugely rewarding career is an integral part of this. I'm really pleased that we are currently on track for our target of ensuring 20% of our new pilot entrants for women being by 2020. It's a very cool story, isn't it?
Having the opportunity at that age to do something like this,
yeah,
is awesome. I think that's so good, and obviously for youngsters at school now who are maybe, thinking, I want to be a pilot when I grow up. This is brilliant. What do you think, Armando?
Yeah, I think this is great. So I think the podcasting community, so I know as I transitioned from the military into a commercial career, I've been listening to a lot of the aviation career podcasts, but there's nothing like having somebody that's already in the industry mentoring you, and to have a professional pilot mentor somebody this young, I think that's a great idea, and I hope this is an idea that sort of catches on, where some of the youth get to see the ups and downs of a career. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It's very exciting. It's
Do you think, given the opportunity, Nev, at a young age, you would have, if you had this opportunity, you would have thought,
yeah, if I had enough skill to pass the exams and that sort of stuff, which clearly I haven't, and I never did have. But it's a great opportunity, and I think getting people engaged as young as you can, I think it's absolutely superb. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
So the next story is for you, Nev, and it's a bit of a posh story for you.
Yes, which is surprising because it's on the Mail Online. They don't normally do posh, do they? But it says that living the high life takes on a whole new meaning if you can afford to dismiss first class and opt instead for your very own penthouse in the sky. So exclusive of these are these private suites that only a handful of commercial airlines offer them, and those which do are constantly endeavouring to come up with new levels of luxury. Holly Willoughby coughed up £19,000 when she flew back to Britain from Australia after her stint presenting ITV's I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, snuggling down in Etihad Airways' 3-room suite, complete with a private bathroom. This week, British Airways unveiled club suites offering passengers in business class a sliding door for maximum privacy, an 18.5-inch TV, very important that, vanity unit, and 40% more storage space. So here's what you can expect at 35,000 feet if comfort is essential and money no object. So Singapore Airlines, they've got double beds and total privacy, which is ideal for couples because 2 suites can be linked to become one huge studio apartment with a double bed, rose petals sprinkled at turn down, and a pair of reclining seats upholstered in premium leather by Texas-based Aristo. You'll be on a giant Airbus A380 that softens turbulence, so not a drop of the Krug champagne will be spilt. There's a proper hanging cupboard and enough room for a yoga session before you slip into a pair of pyjamas, courtesy of French luxury brand Lalique. One TV set sits at the end of the bed, another on the wall. Bose noise cancelling headphones come as standard, and if you reserve your main course 24 hours before flying, you can pick a signature dish from a roster of celebrity chefs. And the return from London to Singapore, a bargain at £8,236.
Lovely. Excellent.
This is my favourite, the next one.
Now, yes.
If I had the money.
If this wasn't enough for you, how about this? On Etihad Airways, you can have a butler to turn on the charm.
Oh, lovely. Your very own Carson there.
Well, we mentioned Holly Willoughby, who stayed in the Etihad's top-of-the-range penthouse, the Residence, the only three-room suite on a commercial airline. The big draw is the private bathroom with shower, and suites are designed for 2 people and come with a Savoy Hotel trained butler. The chef, normally with Michelin star credentials, will discuss what flavours might be appropriate as you fly from one continent to the next. Lanky travellers won't get their feet cold in the 6-foot 10-inch beds, and rather than ordering drinks, you are given your own minibar near the 32-inch flat screen TV. The bed has the finest Egyptian cotton bed sheets, obviously, and to help with a good night's sleep, there's a menu of pillow mists and pulse point oils. Whilst your bed is being made up, a flight attendant will leave a note on the pillow. Often a quote from Dr. Seuss, the American children's author. Our favourite is, "Oh, the things that you can find if you don't stay behind." And the cost of this one, return from London to Sydney, is only £16,550.
Is that all? Well, that's marvellous. Yeah.
I mean, there's loads more on here now. There's just, I mean...
Yes, there's no shortage of opportunity here, is there? I'm just going to pick one more from this actually. We'll make it the BA one, shall we? Yes, and they've got their mini bedroom suite as I mentioned earlier, and they have unveiled their club suite seats for business class travellers, complete with mini sliding doors for privacy, and that's going to be introduced on the new A350 aircraft, which will be in October of this year, and the first route for that will be London to Toronto and London to Dubai. Perhaps the use of suites is cheeky. The flatbed seats, long enough for 6'6" passengers, are more like small, comfortable enclosed spaces. But they are fitted out with 18.5-inch TVs, Wi-Fi, vanity units with mirrors, and white company toiletries. There is also 40% more storage than business class customers usually enjoy. The return from London to Toronto, departing on October the 23rd and returning October the 31st, is from £1,783.
That's reasonable.
Not bad. Well, I'm going to Toronto with Sue in July, and but unfortunately it won't be on the A350. It'll be on the 777.
We interrupt this very important broadcast for an unexpected guest in our studio in the States here. Here we go. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Megan.
How are you?
Hello. Good. How is everybody?
Oh, we are living life's eternal dream, as I said at the top of the show. Is it nice having hubby home at long last?
It's very nice.
Yeah, you can tell us the truth. It's fine. We don't mind.
So Armando always says that flying is just a bunch of boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror.
Okay, good.
And so I feel like living with him finally and adjusting to the married life is like, just normal routine things punctuated by a moment of romance every now and then.
Okay, that's a
family show.
Right. I can say that's probably more information than we needed, but thank you. It's just we're going to get that warning again, aren't we, on this? But anyway,
it's lovely to see you.
How many levels of ratings are there on Patreon?
Yeah, well, on or off, it seems, certainly from negotiations we've had this week. But yeah,
lots of love in the chat room for Meg. Lots of love in the chat room.
This is it. Oh, this is so cool. So, I mean, obviously, you're going to, by the sounds of it, you're already trying to kill him now that he's arrived there with all this extreme exercise that he's whinging about since we started.
He's just a baby. I'm also trying to feed him well. So right. I don't know if you noticed before the show started, he was eating very healthy salad.
Yes.
However, we also have some.
No, that's quite right, absolutely.
Yeah, he's been very undernourished since he's been in the UK, as you may have noticed. So,
Yes,
I'll tell you what, Meg, you should have seen the sheer size of the salad that he had with us a few weeks ago back here.
Exactly. Thank you, Carlos. That's exactly
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tony S. in the chat room is saying, "Goodbye, Armando. We found your replacement."
yeah, absolutely. Bye-bye. Yeah, you lasted about 5 weeks. Well done.
Anyway, going back to the story, it's funny because she came in right at that story as we were looking at the pictures, and it's funny because I was like, well, I don't know, I've never seen the front of an airplane. I've never seen any of these suites in person. So for the low price of 16,000 pounds, I'm sure we could take a trip to Tokyo in one of these.
Nev didn't sort of talk about this, but this is the suite that this was again on the Daily Mail. This is actually the Emirates, so this is the bar upstairs, which just looks absolutely amazing, along with the bathroom and stuff like that. I mean, it's like well, I mean, hotel is not a fair comment, is it? I mean, these are whole other world type sort of things. It's just, and obviously, presumably, you're paying even more than you would be for just seat 1A essentially with stuff like this. I'm guessing, Nev. I don't know if this is.
Well, it's I think it's a nice job actually of those suites. But to be honest with you, BAE had to do something because trying to compete with the Middle East, the carriers
boys,
especially, they've been a bit behind the curve for some time.
Indeed.
So,
yeah.
It is nice.
We did well there to wrestle that back into aviation-related content.
know,
Well done,
I
children.
know.
A little round of applause for us all, I think.
Yes. We'll leave the next story for Meg, that's one.
Yeah, absolutely. The next story is, yes. Whose go is it now?
This is Armando's story.
It is,
as
yes.
well,
It's your go, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is from simpleflying.com, and I guess this is the reason we do a podcast, because I'd never seen this aircraft or ever heard of this aircraft. But let's see, many people have heard the tale of how the Airbus A380 came to be. Airbus believed that the future in air travel was hub to hub, and the plane of the future would be that large capacity A380 with enough room for hundreds of passengers. Boeing, on the other hand, believed in direct routes between destinations and therefore focused on smaller, more fuel-efficient aircraft. We, of course, know how this turned out for both companies. But did we know that there is actually a third option? Introducing the Sukhoi KR-860, the gigantic Russian answer to the A380 and the equivalent of doubling down on red. The aircraft took the hub-to-hub model to the extreme. It was revealed at the 2001 Paris Air Show, the Sukhoi KR-860, four-engine double-decker similar to the A380. Direct translation of its name, Krylia Rossi, means the wings of Russia, with 860 referring to how many passengers it could carry. It was under the development from Sukhoi, Russian aerospace firm that also builds a multitude of fighter jets for the military. The aircraft itself was never built, but a 1/24th scale model was created to showcase their future concept. It had three variants: a passenger variant, a cargo variant that could hold rail cars and cargo containers, and a liquid gas variant used to transport products from oil fields. The liquid gas could have also been used to power the airplane instead of jet fuel, meaning the flight would have been free for the airline. And the article goes on to describe some of the specs for it. It had planned on Pratt & Whitney engines or General Electric engines, and between 860 and 1,000 passengers in an all-economy configuration.
Ooh, that sounds cozy.
Yeah, right. The designers intended for the lower deck to be 12 abreast seating with 3 aisles, which would have been a first in commercial air travel, and the upper deck having 9 abreast seating with 2 aisles. Yeah, just an amazing airplane. I'd never heard of it. Very cool. Good find.
One of the pictures on the website has got the tail end of the aircraft, and according to this, it's got a rear escalator. Not stairs, an actual escalator. That's just crazy.
Wow. Okay.
But I mean, if this thing ever comes to actually be built, it's going to be one heck of an aircraft. I mean, a capacity of up to 1,000 passengers. Can you imagine the boarding and process on that aircraft?
Yeah,
it would have been revolutionary, as we tend to say on the podcast. But I'm looking at some of the further pictures down, and the folding wing concept that Boeing now has on the 777. Except this also had a folding wing, but it went all the way to that sort of outboard engine. So, taking a wild guess, it probably would have been 10, 12 meters of folding wing, which would have been interesting to see also.
There's a lots of amusement in the chat room about how much Armando was blushing earlier during the top of that story.
Let me adjust the color on the camera.
Is it right?
This
okay.
is my internet.
Yeah. We're not believing you. Anyway, right, Carlos, what's next, please?
The next story is on the pressandjournal.co.uk website. And we're back in the UK for this story. This one is Barra Airport, among the world's most scenic of airports. And with its spectacular beach landings, it's a bucket list flight for thousands of passengers every year. And now Barra Airport in the Outer Hebrides has been named as among the world's most scenic airports. Barra came in second on the list of top 10, topped by Donegal Airport in Ireland, with Nice Côte d'Azur in France, third in a poll by private jet company Private Fly. Barra, who won the award in 2012. American broadcaster CNN also highlighted Barra on the list, saying the view on the approach to Scotland's Barra Airport, which offers stunning coastal views, just missed out on the number one spot, coming in second place. A panel of travel experts and aviation fans participated in the annual poll, which featured 129 different airports around the world and received over 7,000 votes. Of Barra, Private Fly said that voters have praised the quirky nature of the magnificent views coming in and going out onto a sandy beach. It's a joyous experience from start to finish. Just wonderful, they said. While another added that the approach to Barra Airport is awesome. Superb views over to Skye and the small isles. Then seeing the causeway between Eriskay and South Uist. Coming over the sand dunes to land on the beach at Barra is a totally new, unique experience. Nothing beats it every time. Barra, which celebrated its 80th anniversary in 2016, is believed to be the only airport in the UK that officially has 3 designated runways, but only one when uncovered by the sea. So they do give a list here of the top 10 most scenic airports for this year. Number 10, it's how do we say Aosta Airport in Italy. Jenny from Rome will probably be having a go at me about that.
Yeah, there'll be emails. Yeah.
Number 9, it's one of Pip's favourites, London City Airport in the UK here. Number 8 is Toronto Billy Bishop in Canada. Number 7 is Queenstown Airport in New Zealand. Number 6, Saba Airport in the Netherlands. Netherlands Antilles, there we go. Number 5, Saint Martin. Obviously, we all know, we've heard of that, where the aircraft flying over the sand. Number 4, Orlando Melbourne International Airport, USA. Number 3, Nice Airport, or Nice in France. Number 2, as you said, Barra Airport in Scotland, and obviously, as we said, in the top place, Donegal Airport in Ireland. Now, you've been to Ireland a million times, Matt. Have you seen Donegal Airport?
To be fair, I was never looking out of the window because I was so terrified that I was just never in a million years.
You played a video there, actually, mate. You got the video on the YouTube for you guys watching. Beach landings. I quite like the idea of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I should just say the copyright on that is Sam Chewy, by the way.
We've had Sam on the show.
Yeah, we have had Sam on the show.
We've had Sam on the show, yeah.
He's the guy that took that amazing video. It's great, isn't it? It's...
it's right up there.
Did I see something on Twitter though? And I think there was a couple of various podcasters / captains who were commenting on it. It's like, what's the one you were talking about? Where they do those very extremely low beach landings.
Oh, Saint Martin, yeah.
There's something about that where my heart literally jumps into my mouth when they're doing that. Because one of those days, some of these pilots, I can't help but feel almost like they're showing. What's the word I'm looking for? Where they're sort of showing off, basically. And as I say, you just one of these days,
they're not set their altimeter.
Somebody's going to get that wrong, and it'll spoil it for everyone. Do you know what I mean? But then the people are as bad, because I mean they really shouldn't put themselves in that. I mean, if I see one of those things coming anyway, I'm running half a mile away. Never mind.
That's why I love the airport at Lanzarote, because the aircraft flies straight over your head, and you can stand. It's a bit like St. Martin.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, as you guys continue to plan the 300th show, whatever comes of that planning, this is a great list for us to go back down to the folks at in London with the simulator, and we can all just have a go at each one of these and have the most.
Oh, that's an idea, isn't it?
We could all just go out and do a live show from Lanzarote from the approach.
That's my kind of kid.
Yeah, yes. I like the sound of that. Yeah. How much have we got in the budget, Carlos?
Probably enough for a glass of scotch.
Oh, excellent. Oh, good.
I'll start working on painting the room green so we can put the green screen behind it.
Brilliant! Yes. I like the idea.
Well done.
Absolutely. Yeah. This sounds like the 300 Lanzarote. Apparently, Lee's just texted me. I don't know what that means.
300 show in Lanzarote.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I'm with you. Yes.
Maybe. You never know. You never know.
I need to start listening to our own show, don't I? Sorry.
So, Matt,
as a foreigner living in the UK, every time I came into Heathrow on the Westerlies, I was glued to the window, and I don't know why I'm taking pictures, but I continue to take pictures because that approach coming in and you just see all of London in whatever weather it was always amazed me. I loved coming into London.
Yeah. Okay. If you, I mean, there is.
I like leaving. Leaving London or the UK.
Well, but I know what you mean though, because when flew into Stansted, when been out to Italy, and obviously it was a daytime flight. It's one of the first times that it'd been daylight when we coming in, and because I was feeling a little bit braver and stuff, and I was literally looking out the window, and just sort of it did look. This sounds terrible, but you know, if you've ever watched EastEnders. And you've got the opening titles, and you essentially got that. Yeah, bless them. It's like Armando and Megan are literally shrugging their shoulders.
EastEnders,
what's that? EastEnders.
It's like a Sierra Hotel India Tango version of Cheers.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll add it to our online streaming list.
Oh God! No,
don't.
Absolutely. Anyway, that map. You what? Sorry, say that again. What did you say?
Yeah, based on that reaction, I've immediately already removed it from
Excellent, good idea. Yes, very wise. But at the beginning of the opening title sequence, you'll find that on YouTube. It's really interesting. It is like it's like almost like a Google Earth type sort of view above of where you follow the line of the River Thames as it goes through London, and you can see things like the London Eye and stuff like that. And so to actually fly sort of coming into Stansted as you're flying over that sort of part of London to come in is one of the few times where I've actually looked out the window and thought, do you know what, actually this is quite cool. And I dare say flying into London City must be quite an experience.
Actually, Nev, you've had quite an interesting experience flying into Gibraltar, haven't you? Because that's a bit of a different.
Yeah, it's always nice, and you never quite know what the weather's going to do in Gibraltar. But when it's a bit windy, you can end up going around, or you can end up in Malaga, depending on how you get on. It's always a little bit challenging because of the rock and the wind patterns, and it's only a 6,000 feet runway, so you can't really.
And the main road that goes through them.
It does, but of course, all that's going to finish soon because they will have finished the tunnel.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been going on for a long time now. When I went to interview the head of ATC, I think they were talking about it was going to be finished at the end of this year, I think it is, but I need to keep up with the news on that. But that will help a lot, and it'll be. I mean, they can be able to operate a large number of aircraft into the airport.
Cool. And talking about a large number of aircraft, Matt, the next story.
Is this on the International Flight Network website, is it? Yeah, okay, cool. Sorry, I'm having to do, for reasons I won't go into, I'm having to use my phone at the moment, so it's difficult to have the show notes up, and Carlos will use any excuse to slag off my iPhone, so we won't go into that. Anyway, International Flight Network, ifn.news is the website, and the headline is Qatar, what, how have we settled on
Qatar.
Pardon?
Qatar.
Wow.
No, Mexico. No,
that's horrific. Yeah. So is it Qatar?
Qatar.
Okay, Qatar.
Well, I think we've just lost all all our audience in Qatar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The airline beginning with Q.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, I can't get away with that, can I? Anyway, so we'll say Qatar. Sorry, Grant will no doubt tweet us when this goes out. Yeah, or that is to the correct pronunciation, because we did have a very thorough explanation, didn't we, from Grant about how it should be said. But anyway,
apparently James Taylor in the chat room has said it is definitively Qatar.
Qatar.
So Qatar.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go with that. For the Qatar Airways adds 250th aircraft to its fleet. So Qatar Airways has taken delivery of its 250th aircraft, an Airbus A350-900. The brand new airplane has been registered as Alpha 7 Alpha Mike Indigo. Is that right?
Well done.
Thank you.
It's India, but doesn't matter.
What, sorry?
It's India, but doesn't matter.
Is it?
Carry
All
on,
right. So
carry on.
Anyway, India. Okay, and was ferried from. Hey, that wasn't bad. Come on.
I know.
And was ferried from Airbus production site in Toulouse to Doha on Wednesday. I've been to Toulouse. I don't know if I mentioned that. As of March the 20th, the fleet of Qatar Airways consists of 203 passenger aircraft, 25 cargo, and 22 executive jets. The fleet of more than 200 passenger aircraft includes aircraft types from manufacturers Airbus and Boeing. On cargo services, Qatar Airways Cargo operates 2 Boeing 747-8 freighters, 15 Boeing 777 freighters, and 8 Airbus A330 freighters. Furthermore, Bombardier, or Bombardier as I like to say, and Gulfstream planes are part of the executive jet fleet. In addition to that, the national airline of the state of Qatar has more than 170 aircraft on order, including large orders for the Airbus A321neo, A350-1000, which is one of the aircraft I'm pretty sure that myself and Owen got to see when we were at Toulouse, an amazing looking aircraft actually, as well as Boeing's 777-8, 777-9 and the 787-9 airplanes. Compared to other Gulf carriers, Qatar Airways is currently the second largest airline based on the total fleet size. So what's the first largest one then?
Emirates.
Oh, it is Emirates.
Is
is it?
the biggest
It's
one.
the big one, is it? Okay, yeah. But so well, congratulations to Qatar for their 250th aircraft.
And not forgetting as well, Qatar were the launch customer for the A350-900 and -1000.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool indeed.
So moving on to the next story then, Nev, and nice story this one.
It is, yeah, and it's on the WSBTVAtlanta.com website, and it says that family goals, mother and daughter pilot Delta flight from Los Angeles to Atlanta, and a photo taken of a mother and daughter on the flight deck of an Atlanta-bound Delta Boeing 757 has gone viral. The duo, Captain Wendy Rexon and First Officer Kelly Rexon, can be seen smiling ear to ear at the helm of the dual-engine Boeing 757, which seats around 170 passengers. The photo was taken by Dr. John R. Wattret, the Chancellor of Embry-Riddle Worldwide, a world-renowned aeronautical university, who just happened to overhear that there was a mother and daughter flight crew. According to a release from the university, the Chancellor, who was a passenger on the flight, overheard a mother and kids coming from the cockpit talking about the mother and daughter flying the passenger airline. I thought that was amazing. I was in awe, and I asked if I could visit them too. This was especially meaningful for him because of Embry-Riddle's commitment to creating more opportunities for women in all areas of the aviation industry. There has to be more diversification in the industry. It's crucial, and one of the key factors we focus on. When there are more opportunities, everybody wins, Dr. Wattret said in the press release. That's nice, isn't it?
How cool would that be, to have a job where you actually get to do something like this with your father or your mother or a close family member to actually pilot an aircraft? Armando, what do you reckon of this?
Yeah, we saw this article also earlier this week, and it's awesome. What a happenstance that the Chancellor of Embry-Riddle, which is, as they said, world-renowned, but that gives them an avenue to get this out there. It's super cool. I don't know if, I agree with him saying that diversification is important in the industry, but just from a sort of a human standpoint, it's just pretty cool to have mother-daughter flying on this aircraft.
It's our family goal.
Yeah, definitely.
I bet you can't wait to get flying with Armando, hey?
Well, that's going to come probably a year or more from now. I've got to get training myself from somebody who's not Armando. We don't need any marital arguments.
I like your thinking. Good work. Yeah.
Yeah, and that really does relate to the story. When you're studying crew resource management, you're you're aspiring to have a good connection between the entire crew. And the few times that we've flown together, we've had a really good time, and the Lancer that I owned was a bit of a handful sometimes. And it was just nice to have somebody in the right seat. And you can talk about any complex aircraft, right? Whether you're talking about a military aircraft, but having that connection in the flight deck is really important where things are going smooth. And I think as we look at either purchasing a family airplane or something like that, it only makes sense to have Megan do her PPL, and it's just going to be really nice to have a full certified co-pilot, just like this mother-daughter team.
For safety.
For safety.
Indeed. Actually, as we're talking about nervous flights, somebody who will remain nameless, you'll know who it is as soon as I show it. It's actually sent me this. This is what I was actually doing. This view that I was talking about as we were coming into land. Me actually looking out of the aeroplane window on the coming into land, which has never ever happened before.
I can't help noticing as well. You got the upgraded seats of Ryanair, Matt.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, that might have been to do with the person that was sat next to us, obviously being considered, not me, I should stress, being considered a responsible member of the community, therefore able to operate as required in the event of an emergency. So that's the only reason.
I was going to say, if that's you, Matt, I was wondering why you already have one hand on the emergency exit handle.
Speedy exit. That's the answer. But we're sort of we started this little hobby last time, but this is where Owen's actually watching us from. Somebody's set up their cinema at home, look, and is busy watching the show. How scary is that?
You're famous globally now, Meg.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're
I don't know how I feel about this fame.
Yeah. It's all right, dear. It won't take very much of your time up, I can assure you. You will literally be recognised by no one. So
moving on to the last story, and Armando, this looks pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, this is from KGUN, Channel 9 News in Tucson. We take modern air travel for granted and maybe even complain about it. But we're going to take you back, way back, and up in the air to the days where air travel was young and a trip in the air was a real adventure. Through the weekend, which it's Sunday now, so there is a plane in Tucson International Airport that flew its first passengers 90 years ago. The Ford Tri-Motor made it practical to have regularly scheduled airlines in this country, and we had a chance to see what being an air passenger was like in the 1920s. The Ford Motor Company built almost 200 of these Tri-Motors. The one at Tucson has been flying since 1929. The Experimental Aircraft Association brought the Tri-Motor to Tucson. This plane has a sort of long and interesting history. Many Tri-Motors acquired as more modern airplanes replaced them on prime routes. At 90 years old, it's hardly experimental, but the EAA uses it to get people excited about aviation for fun as a profession. The EAA also has a local Tucson chapter. Pilot Steve Lambrick says the old Ford takes a lot more muscle than the Boeing 737 he usually flies. With 3 engines, it's hard to keep them all in sync. It's loud, it vibrates. It's just early technology, early aviation.
So not a good flight for Matt.
No, definitely not. Yeah, abort.
Let's see, Lambrick knows this old plane helped build the industry he flies in today. Prior to these being built, there were mail planes where they would throw a few people in few extra seats. Maybe 3 to 4 or 5 people would fly with the mail, as it was the Fords that saw the need for an airplane that was exclusively for passenger air travel. So they decided to build America's first airliner. It continues to go on. If you're listening live in Tucson, today is the last day. You can get out to the Pima Community College Tech Center on the western edge of Tucson International Airport and go talk to those guys about taking a flight, which costs about $70, and looking is free.
You know, for those of you who will obviously may click on the show notes when Matt puts the show notes in with the links on the website, if you take yourselves over to the website where Armando's reading the story from, there's some pictures on the website. Matt can't put them up at the minute, but if you take a look on the website, this aircraft actually, you know, you talk about a steering wheel. This actually has.
I mean, the pictures from the website that you keep mentioning.
Yes, it's this aircraft actually has a wheel, a steering wheel.
Oh wow! Oh yeah.
And in the cabin, you know, I mean, who wants kind of pull down shutters when you can have curtains, actual pull across curtains, and what looks like oil-filled lamps on the side of the side of the actual cabin.
So I got a chance to see a Ford tri-motor, and Micah says he's flown in one.
Oh, wow.
But I got a chance to see one at the Mid-America Flight Museum, which is in Mount Pleasant, Texas. And they had a beautiful flying tri-motor there. And the woodworking was amazing. The seats were wicker. It had lamps. I mean, talk about first-class travel, other than the noise and the potential for an oil fire. You have a 33% chance of an oil fire in one of the engines each single takeoff, but it was so classy.
It does look. We've got nothing like that here in the UK. We need to have something. Mind you, the closest, I suppose, we've got the de Havilland, the Dragon Rapide, haven't we, at Duxford, which is slightly similar in a certain way. But good little story that. So that brings the commercial news segment of the show to a close. Coming up next, we have got a special segment that has been sent in by Pilot Pip. And Matt, you've had a chance to have a look over this. What's Pip chatting about on this segment?
I won't spoil it for. I didn't realise you were going to choose me, so hang on.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be a bit of a challenge now. You should know the rules by now. Yes,
so I'll poke you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, family show. There is. Basically, he's taken a recent trip to a very cool airport in Switzerland, and he's talking about his time there. But if you are watching on YouTube, it is worth it. There's some great photos that is included. So yes, I'll hand things over to Pip now.
Plane safety from the flight deck with Pilot Pip.
Ahoy there, mateys, it's Pip here. Currently sat in Nice in the south of France, where it's a very pleasant Saturday evening. Quite an easy day for me today, just one flight, rather unusually. Flew up from Palma de Mallorca, one of my favourite places, where I spent a very nice morning sunning myself, relaxing in the pool, taking a dip in the jacuzzi and sauna. Very nice indeed. You know, one of my favourite things about my job at SafeJets is the huge variety of airports that we fly to. And I've been kind of reflecting on that a little bit recently. You know, we go to all the usual places. I was in Heathrow, for example, the other week. Go to Gatwick, Stansted. This week, Munich, Frankfurt, Milan. All the usual big international airports. But also I go to some really fascinating smaller airports. At the end of last year, I went through my logbook and just was curious to see how many airports I flew to last year. And I totaled up 127 different airports, which I think is phenomenal. And I really enjoy that. I enjoy going to new places and seeing new things, having adventures. You know, we tend to go to a lot of the same places. Paris, for instance, Nice, where I am now. We come here an awful lot. But every so often, we go to an absolute gem. And this week was a very special one. We flew, never been there before, but we flew to somewhere in Switzerland called, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this, called Bosch, or Boch, B-O-U-C-H, near the city of Lucerne in the middle of Switzerland. Absolutely stunning. Now, you may know this airport. It's in fact the factory and main headquarters of Pilatus Aircraft. You know, they produce the PC-12. They do some nice aerobatic aircraft. They make some things for the Swiss Air Force. And just recently they've started production of the PC-24, which is a twin-jet aircraft. Looks suspiciously like my Embraer Lemon, suspiciously like it. I wonder where they got the plans for that. It's a nice aircraft, but it's an absolutely gorgeous airport. Now, hopefully I've been able to send in some photos to accompany this little segment, so maybe Matt's putting them up on the screen right now. But Boch, it's right out in the middle of the Alps. Visually a stunning place to go, but actually quite tricky to get into. A cheeky little monkey of an airport, actually. The airport is surrounded on all four sides by quite high terrain, up to 7,000 feet off to the west and about 5,000 feet to the east. So there's no straight-in approaches there, and no IFR approaches either, so you have to make a visual approach, and that's one of the things I really love. Really getting back to basics, flying the aeroplane, visual flying. So the way we get in there, I think we were coming down from Frankfurt, just a positioning flight, so quite a short one. It was a beautiful day, clear blue skies, not a cloud up there, so ideal weather for flying. We flew down, heading down from Frankfurt, heading south, and at a certain point we enter a hold and then descend in a hold down to a lower altitude, 5,000 feet, something like that, where we're able to cancel IFR and proceed VFR. So it means we're no longer relying on instruments to fly, we're visually navigating and visually flying with reference to the outside world. Now, there is an RNAV approach, actually, or an RNAV procedure, initial approach into this airport, but it's technically only authorized for the Pilatus aircraft that are based there and for the Pilatus pilots. But there's nothing wrong actually with visually following the RNAV. So that's what we did initially. Cancel IFR, then we can visually follow this short procedure. It just takes us around a few valleys to get into a position whereby we can start a visual approach. And that's where it becomes really exciting. Really just a gorgeous view out the window. You have to fly this kind of weird reverse S pattern round a big kind of lump of rock up the lake and then round another big lump of rock onto a short final for this airport. So quite challenging, but an awful lot of fun. Maybe I'll also include here the approach chart so you can have a look on the screen if you're watching the video version of this podcast. In some ways it kind of reminds me a little bit of Gibraltar. The fact that it's got some pretty large lumps of rock dotted around it, but also it has a public road that crosses it at about 2/3 of the way down. That's kind of interesting. So air traffic control have to temporarily close this road by means of a barrier and some traffic lights. But there's also some public walkways, footpaths, and I did notice a few people out pushing prams with kids in and walking their dogs. So that's a kind of an unusual challenge to have to contend with. So you do need to have your wits about you. For visual approaches generally, not just for this one, it was particularly challenging, but visual approaches are something that you need to give a little bit of thought to. I was reading a thing the other day, one of our safety publications from SafeJets, and they were quoting a study made by ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, or something like that. A study that they made a few years ago, and they said that straight-in IFR approaches were 25 times safer than visual approaches. I kind of raised an eyebrow at that figure. I don't really know where they got that from or even quite what it means, but it does go to highlight the fact that visual approaches and circling approaches are a different kettle of fish, another beast altogether. And it's not something we do an awful lot of. We tend to be flying, and certainly in this part of the world anyway, we tend to just fly an ILS, straight in ILS, or an RNAV approach, or some other instrument approach. And there is another set of skills that we need to practice and maintain when we're flying visual approaches and circling approaches. I think we were talking the other day in one of the Twitter chat rooms, and perhaps even they mentioned it on the APG. There was a crash some time ago at Teterboro in New York, a Lear 35, in a lovely clear blue day, somehow managed to make such a mess of their circling approach that they lost control of the aircraft and crashed in ideal conditions. And really there's no excuse for that. So I've mentioned a couple of different things there, and it's probably just worth clarifying the difference between them. So I've talked about a circling approach. So a circling approach is a visual maneuver. It's still an IFR procedure, so you're still on an instrument flight plan. If you like, you could say it's the extension, it's the visual extension of an instrument approach. So and you could follow an ILS down to a circling minima to one runway, and then you would circle onto another runway, or the opposite end of that runway. Or in the case of the Teterboro crash that I just mentioned, they were making an ILS approach onto one runway and then making a visual sidestep onto another offset runway. And when you're flying that sort of an approach, you have two different minimas that you need to consider. You have the ILS minima, if that's the approach you're flying, or the VOR, whatever that procedure is. You have one minima, and that's generally lower than the circling minima. So you're going to have to stop at the more restrictive one, which is generally going to be the circling minima. And it's quite interesting when you get into the nitty-gritty and you look at how these approaches are designed. And there's a couple of different criteria that they use for building these approaches. In some parts of the world, most notably the States and other areas which are based on the US way of doing things, they use something called TERPS, T-E-R-P-S. I don't remember off the top of my head what that stands for, but they use TERPS procedures. But more common in this part of the world, in Europe, is PAN-OPS. You don't need to worry about what the difference is, but it's two different protocols, two different sets of methodology for designing and building approaches. But on the typical circling approach, when you're looking at terrain clearance, for example, if you go down to the minima, you might only have 300 feet of vertical terrain clearance within 1.7 miles of the runway for my category of aircraft, which isn't much at all. In this part of the world, we tend to use approaches which are designed under PAN's OPS, a slightly more terrain clearance with a slightly larger protected area around the airport. But that's a circling approach, which, to emphasize again, it is a visual maneuver, but it's still a part of an instrument approach. So you're required still to be within visual contact with the terrain, with the airport, with the runway. And then you've got a VFR approach, which is what we did into this airport yesterday. So a little bit different this time because you don't have set minimas to fly to. You're not following any sort of artificial guidance, although you may well and probably should have guidance, ILS guidance or whatever as a backup, or like we were doing visually following an RNAV procedure. But we're now down to basics. It's the pilot responsibility for terrain clearance, for traffic avoidance, and you may well not have any ATC interaction as such. So when we were flying into this airport, there's a tower there, but it's not a full tower service. It's just an information service. So the guy in the tower, he's not clearing you to land or take off. It's at pilot discretion. So a lot more onus on the pilots and the crew for decision making, navigation, deconfliction, all of that stuff. And the point that this article that I was reading was making, it was saying that a lot of these skills and practices and procedures are kind of getting forgotten about as we find ourselves in an environment where we're just flying one instrument approach after the other all day long, 4-5 times a day, ILS after ILS. And of course you've all heard this before, we've said it so many times on the various podcasts, but it's so important to regularly practice those basic flying skills, to disengage the autopilot, to look out the window, fly manually, and more importantly, enjoy flying it. That's why we got into this business in the first place, wasn't it? To fly aeroplanes. So for me, it was a real pleasure this week to be able to fly in somewhere like that, to hand fly the aeroplane, to look out the window and then just enjoy the world, enjoy the aeroplane, enjoy the feeling of being in control and looking out the window at some absolutely stunning scenery. Before I go, if Matt's Nev or Carlos hasn't already mentioned it, we are hoping to have a bit of a UK podcast listener stroke BFFs meetup in, well, possibly over at the Imperial War Museum at Duxford, but that's yet to be decided. But the date to put in your diaries is Sunday the 12th of May, so keep it free. We'd love to see and meet some of you, maybe over at Duxford, but listen out for more information in future podcasts. But for now, I think that's kind of all I've got to say, so take care and fly safe.
And yes, he's exactly right. We are planning to go to Duxford. What was the date again? Sorry, I missed that.
Sunday the 12th of May.
Yeah, that's it. That is our plan, is to head over to Duxford for Sunday the 12th of May. If you, we advise that you book your tickets in advance, because it's much cheaper actually if you save yourself a couple of quid if you book them in advance rather than turning up on spec. There's no special event on. It's just a standard day.
Meetup, yes.
And it's just a meetup. It's a jolly good excuse to go to an excellent air show and get stuck in. So so Sunday the 12th of May. Stick that date in your diary.
I
and
shall
if you can
pop
make it.
a little bit on social media for those of you who listen to the audio version, with all the various details and bits on there. So if you want to find or follow us on Facebook or Twitter, you'll see the details on there, and hopefully we can get as many of you across to Duxford as we can, because it is an awesome place to go. It is a fantastic
museum, and Armando can vouch for this. You've been several times, haven't you, mate?
Yeah, I try to go 2-3 times a year, and the last time I was there was Stephen Ivy, and 3 hours is not enough. You could spend 2 full days there.
Yeah, indeed, exactly. So it is time to. We should. Well,
we're going to hand.
Move on.
We must hand the show over to Armando.
Okay, right. Yes, absolutely.
Over to you.
Yeah, so that's right. This week we do have a few military news stories, and if you are ready to go, Mr. Nev.
Yes, I just about am. Yes.
All right. Carlos, you ready to go with your new hat on?
Roger that, sir.
And lastly, Matt pushing the buttons.
There we go. He's pushing the buttons. Off we go.
So this first story is from Omaha.com, and I believe that's the Omaha World Herald, the local newspaper. And this is about Offutt Air Force Base. And it goes to say the U.S. Air Force could not stop the mighty Missouri River from flooding Offutt Air Force Base. Between Saturday night and early Sunday, the 55th Wing called off a 30-hour, round-the-clock sandbag effort because the floodwaters were rising too fast. It was a lost cause. We gave up, said Tech Sergeant Rochelle Blake, a 55th Wing spokesman. By Sunday morning, 1/3 of the base was underwater. 30 buildings, including the 55th Wing headquarters and 2 major maintenance facilities, have been flooded with up to 8 feet of water, and 30 more structures damaged. About 3,000 feet of the base's 11,700-foot runway was submerged. No one, although, had been injured. It was devastating to the 55th Wing, devastating to the installation and its facilities, said U.S. Representative Don Bacon, a retired Air Force officer who commanded the 55th Wing in 2011 and 2012. They just took a punch to the gut, but the 55th Wing will get back on its feet. While last Sunday yielded small indications of improvement in some pockets of flooding along the Platte and Elkhorn rivers, the devastation at Offutt was a signal of tougher times along the Missouri River. Engineers and emergency personnel fixed their eyes on Offutt, Bellevue, which is the surrounding town, and the point south as water level rose along the river. A levee near Hamburg, Iowa was topped as a World Herald journalist looked on. At Offutt, the 55th Wing managed to fly out 9 of the 33 reconnaissance jets based there Saturday evening, according to the Wing Commander's official Facebook. Some were flown to the Lincoln Airport, and some were flown to Missouri, I believe. Half the base is in crisis mode, half the base, everything is normal, said another spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Vance Goodfellow, Deputy Commander for the 55th Wing's Mission Support Group. Let's see. Offutt officials could not predict when normal flight operations would resume. Offutt is the training base for the 55th Wing's 29 reconnaissance jets, 4 E-4B Night Watch airborne command and control aircraft. The base clearly suffered far greater damage than was inflicted by an EF-1 tornado that hit the base in June of 2017. That one caused about $20 million in damage, and about half of the airplanes parked on the aprons and half of the buildings. So this, there was another article that in the week after the flooding, Offutt has also canceled their air show that was scheduled for June of this year. Kind of it attracts about 300,000 people a year, and it's been going on for a long time. And then for the Air Force in general, this comes sort of, in 2018, we had a lot of damage to Tyndall Air Force Base down in Florida after Hurricane Michael, and that Air Force Base is also being reconstructed. So,
is that a big problem, Armando, with the flooding in that area? Is that just because of the weather, or is it an issue with?
No, so it's I wouldn't say it's common. I think when back in the 90s there was a fairly significant flood up in North Dakota, and I guess sort of by proxy down into Iowa and Nebraska. But no, and I've been to Offutt Air Force Base. It's a real hilly area, which is probably why the third of the base closest to the river is flooded, and the rest of it sits up on a bluff. But I think just natural disasters is something that you have to sort of plan for, but every once in a while, devastating events like these floods and Hurricane Michael at Tyndall. And I'm sure, Homestead Air Force Base back in the day was almost taken out by a hurricane. I think that was in the 90s also. Yeah, so it's just something that you have to plan for.
So moving on to the next story, and Nev?
Yes, on the combataircraft.com website, it says that the UK orders Wedgetail airborne early warning aircraft. British Defence Secretary Gavin Williamson has signed a $1.98 billion deal to purchase 5 Boeing E-7 aircraft, it's been announced. The E-7 fleet will replace the current Royal Air Force E-3D Sentry aircraft in the airborne early warning and control role. The aircraft are known as Wedgetail by the Royal Australian Air Force, RAAF, and the deal has been completed on a growing military capability and industrial relationship between the UK and Australia after the Australian government selected the British Type 26 design for its future frigate. This deal also strengthens our vital military partnership with Australia, says Williamson. We will operate the same state-of-the-art F-35 jets and world-class Type 26 warships. And this announcement will help us work even more closely together to tackle the global threats we face. Chief of the Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal Sir Stephen Hillier, said today's announcement about the procurement of the 5 E-7 Wedgetail airborne early warning and control aircraft is excellent news for both the RAF and wider defence. This world-class capability, already proven with our RAAF partners, will significantly enhance our ability to deliver decisive airborne command and control and builds on the reputation of our E-3D Sentry Force. Modification of the aircraft will be carried out in the UK by Marshall Aerospace and Defence Group in Cambridge, and there will also be opportunities for British suppliers to be involved in future training and support arrangements, according to the MOD. The decision to acquire the E-7 without an open tender has frustrated other AEW&C suppliers. A 6-month competition was envisioned in February 2018, but with the E-7 being declared as the only functioning product, this was cancelled. Saab wrote to the House of Commons Defence Select Committee questioning the rejection of its proposal for the REI radar system to be mounted on the Airbus A330. The MOD said that the Wedgetail is a proven and reliable aircraft and that it is ready and available in a short time frame. It combines a 737-700 increased gross weight fuselage with wings and undercarriage of the 737-800. Above the fuselage, fixed mounting houses, a Northrop Grumman multi-role electronically scanned array radar. The MOD says that the E7 is a low-risk, readily available solution to replace the E3D, which is suffering in terms of operational readiness, having been overlooked for major upgrades. The MOD is specifically working for the Australian Wedgetail standard aircraft rather than the generic E7 or 737 AEW and C. This is due to desire to leverage commonality and the huge amount of E7 fault correction work completed by the RAAF, which also operates the P8 Poseidon and F-35, mirroring the UK. The ability to tap into existing battle space networks alongside F-35 and P8 will be a major consideration, as it will existing national security protocols. So the key here is trying to get the thing operational as quickly as they can, by the sound of things.
Now, I saw one of these a few years back at Riyadh. They have one there on static display. But they wouldn't let me on with my cameras and stuff. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You seem very surprised by that.
They wouldn't let anyone on, to be fair.
Right, okay. Yeah. Well, at least you weren't being personally discriminated then, Carlos. You know.
It was nice to get up sort of reasonably close to one.
Do you mean we finally got a situation where your charm and charisma was unsuccessful?
These guys were just not interested at
all.
Have you had a chance to go on board one of these, Armando? Or I'll take it probably
not. I never have. I see. Actually, the first time I saw it was at Riyadh a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
As you do.
Perhaps, we'll try this year if there's one there this year.
Yeah.
We'll give it a go.
Good luck. Yeah.
We'll name drop Armando. That'll get us on.
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
That's not going to get you very far at all.
Yeah.
So the next story is regarding another aircraft that we all got up close and personal to at Pittsburgh a few years back, and this one is on the aviationist.com. The US B-52 bombers belonging to Task Force deployed to UK perform theatre familiarisation flights across Europe. So on March the 18th, a US Air Force B-52 bomber deployed to RAF Fairford, where we are going to Riyadh this year, from its home base at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. Was spotted refuelling from a KC-135R Stratotanker over Romania. The aircraft belonging to the 2nd Bomb Wing is part of a contingent of 6 B-52s deployed to the UK as part of a bomber task force rotation in Europe. It's the largest Stratofortress deployment since Iraq freedom in 2003, when there was as many as 17 buffs on the ramp at RAF Fairford. The deployment of strategic bombers in the UK helps exercise Royal Air Force RAF Fairford as United States Air Forces in Europe's forward operating location for bombers. The deployment also includes joint and allied training in the US as well, European Command Theatre, to improve bomber inoperability training with joint partners, allied nations and other US Air Force units that contribute to our ready and postured forces and enables us to build enduring and strategic relationships necessary to confront a broad range of global challenges, says a news release on the US Air Force Global Strike Command website. The B-52s were deployed to the UK on March the 14th and 15th and have started launching local sorties since Friday. On March the 15th, the B-52 flew some 150 kilometres off the Russian border, the Russian Defence Ministry claimed, according to TASS news agency. On March the 15th, 2019, a US Air Force B-52 aircraft with the transponder switched on performed a flight over international waters of the Baltic, a sea parallel to Russia's territorial waters. The aircraft did not approach Russia's border, closer than 150 kilometres, and turned around immediately after Russian air defence systems on combat duty tracked it, the Russian MOD said. B-52s have been quite active this week as well. The heavy bombers have already conducted other theatre familiarisation flights, and on Monday this week, when 4 B-52s were launched over the Norwegian Sea, the Baltic Sea, Estonia and the Mediterranean Sea and Greece, and some of them could be tracked online during their tour of Europe using the tracking apps and stuff. Dealing with one spotted over Romania, B-52 61-0015, using radio call sign Aero 11, was being refuelled by a KC-135 tanker. And the KC-135R could be tracked online while it accompanied the B-52 back to the UK. The 6 Buffs are expected to fly from the Arctic all the way down to the Sahara Desert during their stay in Europe, so expect more photos and flight tracking opportunities over the coming weeks. Now, I know, I think it was Jonathan Warner posted a photo or picture, no, it was a video on his Instagram site of one of these coming in to RAF Fairford. And it's a pretty awesome video, actually, really clear video, and of this. And I know that he was incredibly excited to see this. I don't know whether he spoke to you about this at all, Armando.
He did. He was texting me about it, and he was sending me some pictures and some of the screen captures here from the plane spotting community. I won't say I'm an enthusiast quite yet, but it's really interesting to see how that community tends to track some of these movements. And it was really interesting to watch the community response to these B-52s. And there's nothing, it's important to exercise in these areas. And like they said, going all the way from the high north down to Africa is important for the crews and important for the maintenance crews to learn how to work in these environments. And yeah, it's these kinds of training missions are really important pretty much to everybody.
We got underneath one of these, if you remember, at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Do you remember we had a little tour underneath in the Bombay at Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I do actually. Actually, Tony's just saying there was one dropping bombs on Holbeach Range a few days ago.
Oh.
Yeah. Fascinating.
They're amazing airplanes, aren't they?
Yeah, they definitely are.
And definitely lasting the course, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So next story.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the next story is on the warbirdsnews.com website, and the headline is B-29 Dock Hangar and Education Centre open to the public beginning March the 12th. There is Doc's Friends, the organisation responsible for restoring, maintaining and operating the Boeing B-29 Super Fortress known as Dock, has just announced the formal operating hours for their newly opened B-29 Dock Hangar and Education Centre at Eisenhower National Airport in Wichita. Wichita, Kansas? Check out the details in their press release below to find out when the visitors will be welcome at this fabulous new facility. So Wichita's B-29 Super Fortress, known as the Dock, will now be on display for the public with admission access beginning this week at the new B-29 Hangar and Education Centre at Eisenhower National Airport at 788S Airport Road. Beginning Tuesday, March the 12th, the B-29 Dock Hangar and Education Centre will be open for business on Tuesday and Thursday each week from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. when the airplane is not on tour at an airshow. Since moving to our new facility in November, we've been working through winter maintenance on the aircraft while at the same time putting the finishing touches on our Education and Visitors Centre, said Josh Wells, Doc's Friends Executive Director and General Manager. With winter maintenance complete and the airplane nearly ready to fly, we are excited to open our doors to the public to share the historic marvel that is the B-29. Admission prices will be $10 per person to enter the Hangar and Visitors Centre, with an additional $5 admission for a cockpit tour. Family admission up to 5 people per family will be $20 plus an additional $10 for a cockpit tour. All of the proceeds from the admission fees will go directly to funding the facility and the operation of the B-29. So from the beginning we wanted a facility that would not only serve as a maintenance hangar for our volunteers to maintain the historic warbird, but also provide a unique experience for the public to get up close and personal with a piece of our nation's history that put Wichita on the map as the air as the air capital of the world. When visitors enter the B-29 Dock Hangar and Education Centre, they'll get a one-of-a-kind experience that we hope will educate and inspire the next generation of aviation lovers while we honour the greatest generation and connect all who visit to Wichita's rich aviation heritage, Wells said. I mean, it's a fascinating museum, isn't it? Do you know much about this aircraft, Armando?
Just what they said in there. This is the B-29 was instrumental in not just U.S. history, but really world history. And for, I think, 40-something years, like 42 years, there was only one flying B-29, which was Fifi. And I remember seeing Fifi at air shows when I was growing up. So for the last, I mean, probably 10 years or so, they've been trying to get Doc in the air. So having two B-29s in the air is an amazing thing. And it's all really supported by volunteers and donations. There's no, I don't know that there's a private entity supporting this aircraft. So I know if I ever get a chance to be in Wichita, which is it is the birthplace of American aviation, I will absolutely take an opportunity to go by the hangar. If it's not flying, because it does do an air show.
Air shows and stuff. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, $10 is not bad, is it? Really,
isn't it? Yeah.
Good value for that.
Yeah.
$15 if you want to go in and have a cockpit visit.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot more at somewhere like Duxford, but even with a discount, you're still looking at sort of £18.
But this is a pretty iconic aircraft, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was flying into Lubbock, Texas, in a Piper Comanche, and Doc was coming in there, and that was probably one of the best radio transmissions I've ever heard, because I was number 2 behind a B-29, and of course it takes the whole 10,000 feet to land, and I took about 1,000 feet. So the control tower, whatever my call sign was, Comanche, whatever, ever, X-ray, turn left and hold short of the Super Fortress, and I said, "Yep. No problem, can do."
Yeah.
Whilst the phone was coming out and taking pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. So that's where we bring the military news to a close this week. So we're going to start to wrap up the show now for this week. But we're going to say a big thanks to everyone who's joined us today for the show. It's nice to see all the family members in the chat room for an unusual Sunday show for this week, which has been a bit different. But we thought we'd have Nev here, so we'd change the show to a Sunday so we could, show Nev the studio. And Nev, I think one of the big questions we have to ask you is, what's your view on the cable management here?
Actually, from what I have seen in other people's studios, it's not bad. Not bad at all. There's a lot of effort gone here into the whole thing. But it's obviously there's a lot going on in a relatively small space.
Yes,
so it's actually quite difficult.
It's a work in progress, to say. We're not quite...
It looks great, actually.
We're getting there.
It's really, really nice. And, I think you two have done a great job to put it all together.
I'm just grateful it's working. But your very kind donation has made life so... this desk has made life so much easier, because it's all about me, obviously. It's just so nice to have faders. I love faders.
And also, you haven't got to strip it down at the end of every show and pack it away.
Nice.
We don't miss that, do we, Carlos?
No, we do not miss that. We do not miss that. So, what about you, Armando? Have you got a room penned in the house there for conversion into a studio?
I want to know where his simulator's going up. That's what I want. That's all I care about.
Yeah, we do. So Megan works from home. So our home office is. Well, actually, believe it or not, we're going to go to IKEA after this podcast and go down there and start getting some ideas. But I don't know if it'll be up to the Nev quality.
No, nothing is up to that. Don't accept it for the fact it's just got to work. That's all. Nobody can reach Nev's standards. We've all tried and failed, so don't worry about that.
No, there certainly will be a spot here in the house, but. Hopefully the content that I'll be able to provide you guys will be a lot of getting out there and meeting a lot of military aviators, retired military aviators, and give you a lot of field interviews is what I'm hoping to do.
Definitely
awesome. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
So don't forget then, if you want to watch us, it's obviously you'll find the live version where we do it every single. At some point during the week there is a live version of the show that goes out on YouTube. It's youtube.com/c/plain-talking-uk/live. Really rolls off the tongue, I know. Or you can just go straight to our webpage, which will actually put you a direct link to it on there. You can also find out from social media where when the show is going to be live, because obviously it does change a little bit depending on schedules. So search social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is that you choose to use, by looking for Plain Talking UK. Website www.plaintalkinguk.com. It's facebook.com/plaintalkingu, and our hashtag, our Twitter handle is at Plain Talking UK.
Yeah, and you could also go on our website and buy yourself an awesome T-shirt,
which is exactly what Nico did last week.
Nico Riga did,
absolutely.
Nico.
Yes, I assume that's obviously winging its way.
I think he's got it. I hope he's got it. I hope he's got it. I obviously did use the Royal Mail, which can be...
That's never going to end well, is it? No.
Yeah, troubling. But hopefully, Nico, if you're listening to the show, hopefully you got your T-shirt.
Yeah, send us a picture, please. We'd love to have a picture with you on. That'd be great.
Yeah, so you can click on the store button and buy yourself a T-shirt.
And like a few people did last week and Owen did this week, do feel free. We love to see where you're watching the show from, so please do send in emails. So it's podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. That's podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Send in your pictures, where you're watching the show from. If you've got any content that you'd like us to include in the show, because this show is done for you. It's not necessarily all about Carlos, which I know he'll be totally upset about. And just basically, as I say, audio feedback. We love getting audio and video feedback, so please do send in your stuff. Podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. If the email won't go through because of the size of the file, get in touch with us, and then we can give you some space where you can put the file. So please, we'd just love to get your feedback, so please send it in. podcast@plaintalkinguk.com.
Yeah, and I shall be posting some bits on our social media page this week, all about our meet-up at Duxford later on this year in May.
Yeah, Nev, what was the date again? Because you're good at stuff like this.
Sunday, the 12th of May is the date for your diary.
Yes, Sunday, the 12th of May. As I say, Pip's definitely going to be there. We're definitely going to be there, all being well. Yes, follow us on social media to get all the details.
So before we finish, quick run round what we've all got planned for this week in exciting things. So we'll start with Armando. Armando, what you got planned this week apart from the IKEA trip?
Well, I think in the chat room, Steph and I just coordinated. We may go out flying on Wednesday.
Oh, lovely!
And
nice.
Yeah. So one of the jobs that I've been looking at is flying a Cirrus. And I've actually never flown a Cirrus, so I think Dr. Steph and I will probably try to get up in the air, and she can show me around. And the weather here is just beautiful, so I do have to get in the air and sort of get recurrent and then start studying, because very soon I will have to sort of regain my currency with Civil Air Patrol as a mission pilot and VFR, IFR pilot. I got some multi-engine training. So I get about a week off before I really have to, like every other aviator, start hitting the books and start planning out the training.
And don't forget the flat pack furniture.
Yeah.
Well, yes, the IKEA specials. That'll take up an alarming amount of your spare time. Yes.
And what about you, Matt? Are you coaching around the globe?
I'm sort of mainly local. I'm just sort of doing school runs, apart from Tuesday, where I'm off to the delightful world that I'm going across the Wash, where the land of the webbed feet.
King's Lynn.
Yes, off to King's Lynn. So, yes, wish me luck there. It's actually, all jokes aside, I'm making light of it, but actually King's Lynn has got genuinely one of the nicest town centres for shopping I've ever been to. So if you've never been to King's Lynn and you like a bit of shopping, genuinely can't recommend it highly enough. It's got a great town centre for stuff like that. So looking forward to that actually, and fingers crossed, because the forecast looks good for some reasonable weather. So may get a chance for a nice stroll around town.
Now, Nev, you're obviously here with us in the east of Anglia. For
not
today.
just a social
for
visit.
Today, you're
yes, doing a bit of work tomorrow in Dis before I go home, and judging by my diary, I'm doing several laps of the M25.
Oh, how lovely! What a treat!
So that's nice. But on Friday, I don't know when we're going to be doing the show, but I can't make this Friday because I'm at the club at the Ivy.
Are you? Listen to him. I'm at the Ivy.
One of my very good broadcasting chums.
Oh, fantastic!
And that's
Mr. Coburn.
Mr. Coburn, yes.
Do give him our love, won't you?
Certainly will. So, so sadly I won't be around on Friday, but I'm sure we'll
work
find a day.
We'll work things out. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed for your great hospitality and a superb Sunday lunch today. It was fantastic.
Carlos actually cooked for us.
Yes, I cooked. worked.
Yeah, and we're several hours in now, and we both seem still okay, which is great news. Yeah,
that's good.
Absolutely.
It's a Christmas pudding. It was a Christmas pudding.
Yeah.
This week I shall be starting my new job. Yes, tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Me going to see my new boss, and and start a whole new chapter in my
the Carlos world.
Yeah,
you never know. He might even be able to squeeze in a bit of flying again at some point off the back of the new job.
Well, we are based on a B-17 base. So,
are you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And there is still
cool.
a good portion of the runway still there, where my company is, where I'm going to be.
Hurry up and get your pilot's license, then you can fly into work.
Armando, come back, quick. need to finish this.
Yeah.
Well, the offer still stands for you to come out to the U.S., get your FAA PPL.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, no, he'll be doing that.
Yeah, that's definitely on the cards.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So we're going to say again a big thanks to everyone who's joined us in the YouTube chat room for tonight's show, to this evening's show, and also don't forget a big thanks to everyone who downloads the show as an audio version through iTunes and all the other relevant podcasty type download apps and stuff online. Thanks to all you for downloading the show and supporting us as well. And obviously a big thanks, as always, each week to our Patreon donators who help us to push the show onwards and upwards into we've got a busy year this year, guys, haven't we, with air shows and stuff.
Yes.
So looking forward to that.
Can't wait.
Keep your eyes on social media. We will put it on there when we're going to do next week's show. And apart from that, have a great rest of the weekend, what we've got left of this Sunday, and have a great week and a safe week, everyone. Take care. And from me, Carlos, it's goodbye.
From me, it's goodbye. Don't forget that, as I say, we'll post on social media when the next show is. We'll have a little chat as soon as we finish as to when we're going to do that. And, Nev, any last words?
I hope everyone has a great week, and great to see the guys in the real studio.
Indeed. So from all of us here, it is time to say goodbye. So everyone, say goodbye!
Bye!
Bye.